I'm on the website right now for the Supreme Court of Texas. Last year, in the summer, I believe in late July, last year there was a case filed by numerous Republican candidates within the state of Texas, including members of a specific Republican Party organization. They were suing members of the Libertarian Party because they said that they had not engaged in appropriate process regarding petitioning in order to be put on the ballot for the November election. There were 43 people named as respondents, and the way they filed the petition had blacked out the addresses and identification information of each of the respondents except for their name. On the docket at the time, after the case was filed, there were a number, less than 10, responses by individuals who had been named as respondents. And there was, at a certain point in time, an actual order issued by one of the justices of the Supreme Court in the case that basically said what the argument had been from the candidates that did respond, which was that there is more than one process by which one obtains access to a ballot and gets put on the ballot in the state of Texas. Not so ironically, I have books on the history of the Texas Senate that describe this going all the way back, and the manners in which people acquire access to the ballot and actually get on the ballot in order to be considered candidates. And what happened was that the candidates who did respond said that there was a convention process, and they nominated people at the convention process as opposed to having to file individual petitions. I contend the members of the Republican Party absolutely knew this. And the specific individuals and the kind of organizations that presented the petition did it in completely bad faith. That they had every intention of coming up with some sort of process whereby they were going to bond their political opposition in order to use them later on as leverage. And I contend that's actually what they're doing right now. And this conspiracy was aided and abetted by members of the bench that allowed for that case to receive any legitimacy, even though they knew that their charges were going to be denied. The manner in which they were denied, including the specific content of the opinion that was issued by the judge, was very important. There's very, very specific reference to the metric 43, specifically for the people in the state of Texas. I contend they know that. But right now, I'm trying to find that case on the website, and that's not what I'm finding, which doesn't necessarily mean I haven't gotten there yet. What I am finding is that, again, this is a situation wherein, currently at this moment, the docket for the Supreme Court of Texas has been altered. There are case references and dates associated with those cases that were not there as of at least September and October 2020, and certainly weren't there at the beginning of 2021 when I went back and reviewed it again. Most alarming is the fact that I already know my last name is similar to the last name of somebody who, for a considerable amount of time, was a member of the Texas legislature who serves for Fort Worth, where I used to live for a period of time. But then I ended up being forced to leave Fort Worth while he was still in office. And then there was an assumption of responsibility by a police chief who had a name that also sounded similar to mine but was spelled different. Spelled different than my name, but also spelled different from that representative, whose name sounds the same as mine if you say it. But if it's spelled differently. He happened to propose a bill in the state of Texas concerning authorization for an Office of Risk Management and administration connected to the Office of Risk Management. I contend that that has been leveraged in an effort to obstruct actual criminal charges and to commit other forms of fraud, while I personally have been subjected to crime up to and including being trafficked the entire time I've been here. But what's disturbing is that now his name's appearing on the docket right above two cases regarding allegations of child sex abuse by a member of the cloth, a cleric. That was not there last year. They did not juxtapose those two named references on the same day, on the same docket. It just so happens that member of the cloth has the same last name as a padre, as a pastor I actually worked with, including around the time frame of the 2008 presidential election when I was in Chicago. So This is not a coincidence. There are other references here. I do not, and I have in my records electronic copies of information that is connected to what I'm seeing here. There is information. There are cases on the site that I do not recall there being last year, including one presumably involving Exxon suing the city of San Francisco. This was not on the docket last year. This was not on the information regarding the Texas Supreme Court last year when it was actually happening. Now, this would not be unprecedented. Several times I have been apprised of something that has been amiss, and there is materially and factually incorrect information recording or reflecting activity with the Texas Supreme Court. These are some serious implications, and insofar as I understand that there has been abuse of multiple codes of law in Texas, including the Comptroller's Code, in allowing for alteration of electronic records in order to create an appearance of specific transactional moments that did not actually occur at the time, but are presented as having occurred at that time in order to process some other kind of very substantial transaction. I contend that's what's happening right now. Is this money laundering? Or do you believe that this is some sort of lateral transaction, so it's just embezzlement? Whatever it is, it's tampering with government records, and it's also tampering with evidence. Who are you trying to set up, and for what crime are you trying to set them up today? Did you call a hit? Did you actually alter the records of the Supreme Court of Texas in order to try to use it to finance an act of terrorism? 1. 2, 3, 4, 5. Of the 5 cases I just found on a spot check, I contend at least 3 of them were absolutely not on the docket, were not a part of the system last year. The other 2 I'll have to confirm. But the implications are very harrowing. You had no right to do this.